In Podfix Network transmission. In 3, 2, 1.
Whether you're fly fishing in a stream, getting those ankles wet, or deep in the ocean casting nets, fish nerds. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. It's a podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Fish Nerds, the show about fish, fishing, and eating fish. Happy National Podcast Posting Month, NaPodPoMo, and I'm trying to put a podcast out every day this month. I'm a few days behind, but I'm going to get caught up, and you can help. So what I'm doing is doing fishing tips to celebrate Podcast Posting Month. I'm trying to put together 30 fishing tips, and I thought maybe you'd want to help out. Super easy. Grab your phone and just push record on your memo function and give me a fishing tip. Then email that to clay@fishnerds.com. That's for the best quality. The other ways you could do it is calling the Fish Nerds hotline, 607-378-FISH, leaving a voicemail, or go to our website, fishnerds.com, push the microphone button, and just record yourself there. They all work. And just tell me who you are, where you're from, and if you've got, a website you want to talk about, or a podcast you make, or something you're hawking, you can hawk it here. It's fine with me. So today's episode, we're going to talk about tenkara fishing. Yeah, I do a lot of tenkara fishing. I don't do it correctly because the fish don't care if I do it correctly or not. If you don't know what tenkara fishing is, it's like Japanese style of fly fishing. Essentially, it's a telescoping rod with a piece of it's a tenkara line on it, which is I'll talk about in a minute, and a tippet material and a fly on the end of it. And super, super easy. And it's simple, and that's why I love it. I fish it with kids a lot. I use tenkara fishing to teach kids to fish because you don't get tangled at all. And we do a lot of pan fishing with it, although trout fishing people like to brag about. But let's talk about it here, how to set up your tenkara rod. And I got this information from wetflyfish.com, and I'll put a link in the show notes. But so as you get your tenkara rod out, you'll notice it telescopes out, and the very end of it has like a piece of string at the end. It's called a lilian. They call it that because lilian is a lot fancier word than string, and they want to sound fancy because, tenkara. So lilian string at the end of the rod, you want to pull that out and tie a knot in the very, very end of it. This is the part I didn't know about the very first time I went tenkara fishing, and I caught a fish, and my line that I tied to just slipped off. I caught nothing. And then what you want to do is take your tenkara line, which is called like a Duraleader or something like that. It's like a cloth material. By the way, when I have tenkara fish, I don't even bother with that. So it's, you don't have to. But here's what you're supposed to do if you're a purist, which I'm not. But you basically make a little loop in the end of that, like a drawstring loop, a lasso of any kind. I don't care what kind of knot. They recommend a girth hitch, but I don't know knots. So, and you want to put that over the string and attach it just behind your knot in the lilian. Now, if I was designing this, I wouldn't have a lilian, it was a piece of string. I'd have a hoop on the end of that because it makes more sense. But fly fishers love tying knots, as you know. Hook it on there, and then you run your tenkara line out. And how long you do it is up to you. A lot of people recommend a 15-foot length on there, is what they say on their website. I like to do about 6 feet of leader material on there. And then a tippet material to that. So you can tie whatever knot you want to your tippet material, and then to that, whatever fly you choose to use. And that's it. You're set up. It's really, really simple. And don't be fooled by tenkara fishers. They love it. They love making it complicated. You don't have to do all that extra work. I just use tippet material from the end of my tenkara rod, from my lilian right to a fly, and I catch plenty of fish because you're not really casting far. You're kind of just gracefully dropping your fly into the water. I guess the tenkara on Duraleader will give you a little better cast, but I'm almost never having to cast because the fish are always right at my feet. So I'm just dangling that that lure right in front of them. And fishing with kids with this, bonus information here. If you can't get the kids to catch fish on a fly and you're dead set on catching fish, there's no law saying, and I know Tenkara USA will hate me saying this, but there's no law saying that you can't just put a jig on the end of that with a hunk of worm on it and go catch a ton of fish and have a blast. So there's no rules in fishing except for the regulations. Everything else is made up by different fishers and purists. So there's how you set up your tenkara rod. And again, if you want to tell me how to do it better, leave us a message and I'll play it here on the show for you. If you're an expert tenkara person and you want to take me to task for calling tenkara simple, Do it. I love it. Again, we thank wetflyfish.com for providing that information. Fish nerds out. I'm going to head out of here.
Whether you're fly fishing in a stream, getting those ankles wet, or deep in the ocean, casting nets, fish nerds. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. It's a podcast.
Just for the halibut!
Fried in a basket or broiled in a pan. Eat it raw like you're in Siam. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. Fish nerds. It's a podcast.